Good morning and welcome everybody to another edition of
No, wait, no.
No. Good morning and welcome everybody to another edition of the Morning Brief with Tone Vase in the chilly New York. He's not hanging out in Medellin coffee shops partying. No, he's back in New York doing serious stuff. Jimmy Song is back online. He overcame his allergies enough to show his face again on screen. Always dedicated with great insight. And we're going to get right into the stories, which is the first one is really sort of a joke entertainment story. Everybody remembers Eastman Kodak, the photo giant. They were dominating the photo market. Then they got scooped by competition and technology went bankrupt in, when was it? In 2012. They filed for bankruptcy. And since then, the shares have been relisted, have been trading around, $3 until they came out with an announcement saying they're going to do an ICO. They're going to launch a photocentric cryptocurrency. And then the shares just more than doubled to 685. So every company that's in bankruptcy or bankruptcy proceeding, this is your tip. Say that you're going to do an ICO and you're going to be bailed out. Tone Base.
Man, I mean, this is getting so ridiculous. I mean, this is bad. I mean, like Kodak is now doing it. Where does it end? Like, does this mean that the entire stock market is undervalued by 100%, right? Because if every single company that's listed on the stock market announces that they're going to do a cryptocurrency and it automatically raises their stock price by 50%, doesn't that mean that, like, literally the global stock markets are 50% undervalued? Now, that's one option, right? I mean, everyone should be okay with it. The regulators, the governments, they all should be okay with it. They all should understand that all a company has to do is announce that they are going to create their own money out of thin air, and their stock doubles by 50%. So where does it stop, right? My guess is a billionaire is going to get arrested, and he won't be able to get out of it, and then it'll stop. Because I really, I don't know what else to say, right? I mean, Kodak you can't just create your own money, right? Like everyone seems to think that because Satoshi was able to create his own money, and keep in mind, there's a reason why Satoshi isn't getting arrested, and if you don't know why that is, you should not be in the space. Satoshi is not getting arrested for creating his own money. I don't know if that applies to everyone else standing in front of a camera saying, I am going to create my own money that is not under the control of any government. So, I mean, what else can you say to that? Obviously, I mean, either Kodak knows that they're scamming and they wanted to exit some of their stock a little bit at a higher price, or they're totally clueless and they have no idea what they're doing, which is probably likely, considering I don't understand how they're still in business. I mean, again, they couldn't innovate, and I guess they're still around based on a brand name. There's really not much to say here until someone gets in serious trouble. Tomorrow there'll be another company that's going to want to double their stock price.
Well, Kodak already is in serious trouble after the bankruptcy, so for them it's maybe nothing to lose. Jimmy.
Hello?
Yep, you're good.
All right. Hey, Tone, can you pull up the tweet that I just put in the chat of the Google Hangout?
Sure.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So this is really interesting because Kodak's probably apparently really going into this whole cryptocurrency thing with all of their resources, because they are now selling some sort of Bitcoin miner where you have to pay for like a 2-year contract.
No, it's like a cloud miner, actually.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. They expect the hash rate more or less to stay the same in order to get the ROI that they're talking about, which is ridiculous. Like hash rate's been going up for like the last 9 years. I don't know how they're thinking that, but it's pretty incredible. They found something that's actually a little, look at that, like subscriber approximate earnings. It's $375 every month because apparently the difficulty never goes up. So I mean they're getting into this. Obviously, famously missed the entire digital, photography revolution. Even though they created the original digital camera, they're trying to sort of like reinvent themselves. In this way, Kodak. There are lots of other ways in which you can contribute to the Bitcoin community. This is not one of them. They're gonna make their own chain, and they're saying all the things to get their stock price up. I find it a little bit sad that this is what passes for a Bitcoin/blockchain company.
Dude, this is so bad. Annual return on capital expectation is 268%.
Yeah, they clearly don't know what the hell they're talking about. But
money,
yeah.
guys.
What's that?
Easy money.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. So I'm kind of sad.
Look, my favorite part. The bullet point second from the bottom. Bitcoin delivery is weekly through a joint account on Coinbase.
Nice.
We'll get the Coinbase soon today.
Oh boy, yeah.
Like incompetence merging with incompetence. This is awesome.
Yeah, I love how cash miner spelled with a K. Yeah, I like. Oh gosh, guys.
I like that part because it's Kodak. They're trying to brand the K. That part I like.
I think they need some actual people that know about Bitcoin to write this stuff. Like if you're like buying their stock because they put blockchain in their name and they're doing stuff like this, you should know they probably don't know what they're talking about. Just from this marketing material,
for Kodak, they could have at least used some color in their marketing.
I know, right?
You would think, right?
They're too cheap to make colored prints.
Yeah, maybe they're too broke for colored ink.
Yeah.
And they're advertising in a magazine. Like, who advertises in magazines anymore?
They're dinosaurs trying to get into, like, oh god. All right, let's move on to the next story.
Kodak bashing. It was fun while it lasted. We have another guy who, according to Tone, do you want to say something about Kodak, Tone?
Well, no, just one last thing. Okay, so you have to separate what the two things we just talked about, right? Like them getting into mining and cloud mining and selling that stuff. That that's under the definition of like a dumb business because they probably don't know what they're doing, right? Now, that's not necessarily scammy unless their cloud mining turns into a Ponzi scheme. But creating their own coin to finance the operation, that's the scammy part of the equation, right? So these are two completely different things. And people need to separate the two. You have to separate them venturing into mining from them creating Kodak coin. I mean, those are two separate things. And people always merge the two together, and that's bad.
They're trying different things, but it sounds like they're just seeing what sticks and then go with that.
But again, this is always like the Ripple thing. Like, this is the difference between Ripple and R3. They're doing the same thing. Only one has a scam coin assigned to it, right? I mean, it's that's the problem with it. All right, let's move on.
Let's move on to another guy who's not an outright scammer, but who Tone says is starting to go into the territory. And certainly if you read this report, Mike Novogratz, who went into Bitcoin early, one of the early big investors, institutional investors, now he wants to buy a pharmaceutical company and reverse merge that into a merchant bank on the Canadian TSX. That doesn't sound too legit, does it, Tone?
Yeah, I have to read more details into this. I'm not exactly sure what he's trying to do. This gets to the point. Did you get lucky by buying Bitcoin early and you have no clue what you're doing? Or did you actually know what you were doing? And a lot of the people when I joined the space, a lot of the people that I was listening to when it came to Bitcoin, half of them ended up at Bitcoin Cash already, right? So it's clear to me that these people had no clue what they were doing, and they just got lucky by buying into Bitcoin early, making the money. This is a lot like a lot of the altcoin guys are. Like him doing this, it's telling me that he's not understanding what Bitcoin is, and he's basically believing in all of these altcoins, and he thinks that there's going to be like a cryptocurrency economy in the future where everyone gets to make up their own money. It's just bad. I can't possibly see how this is going to end well for him.
Me. Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking at that story, and it seems to me that I know some people at Galaxy Venture Partners, and yeah, the big thing that almost every one of these hedge funds and VC firms, the big problem that they have to deal with is custody. And this seems to me like a way for them to figure out custody with a banking charter or a banking license. But I don't know. That may be what he's thinking, and sort of going into the custody business with digital assets like crypto. But yeah, I mean that's my guess. The fact that he's getting. He's doing it in Canada is sort of immaterial. I think it's just easier to do a reverse takeover there, and that I've heard from a lot of friends that if you're gonna do a reverse merger or reverse takeover, you almost always do it in Canada because it's so much easier to do. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there's something useful out there. In there that they might be able to do with this, but I don't know if it's a scam necessarily. It just seems like they're trying to solve some problems that they're running into as investors.
Okay, let's move on to something really useful. Jimmy's a big fan, and it's called the Merkel Tree.
Yeah, Jimmy couldn't be more excited this morning.
Yeah, so
this whole thing, we don't get it, but Jimmy, explain it to us.
Okay, so Merkelized Abstract Syntax Tree, or MAST as it's commonly called. It's David Harding has a really good explanation on Bitcoin Tech Talk that he did like a couple of months ago. But the exciting thing is that Callie Wolf has been working on this, and he put in 2 merge request or pull requests yesterday. Or in the last few days, and BIP 98, BIP 116, and there's another BIP, I forget, it might be 117. 117 I think is in a separate pull request, but they are more or less implementing MAST. And the interesting thing about MAST is that right now Bitcoin has a smart contract language called Script, and really all people use it for is just like your normal Bitcoin addresses. Once in a while, you might do, multi-sig, but more or less, it's always just sort of like sending to that. The MAST gives you a lot more privacy when you do more complicated scripts. Like, either I can move it or 3 or 5 of my heirs can move it. That sort of thing, just in case, like, for estate planning and things like that. But you don't want people to know what the conditions are. The Merkelized abstract syntax trees allow you to sort of hide that fact from other people. You don't know what the conditions are to unlock it. And if like 3 or 5 of your heirs knew that they could take your money, they might go and do it. Whereas with this, you can reveal that part in your will, and then they can go and get it. So it allows for much more interesting sort of abilities on the Bitcoin blockchain, specifically utilizing script and all of the things around it. And it also sort of reduces the footprint of the blockchain because you can sort of compress it into a hash instead of having all of the logic like directly in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It actually sounds really, really cool. But like the best part of it is, notice how many people are actually working on shit because they expect Bitcoin to be here in 20, 30 years, right? As opposed to, all this other stuff is how do I just, pass on this bag to the new.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really cool. I like Callie Wolf. He's done really good work. And yeah, MAST is something that you won't really know how interesting it gets until it's implemented and people start using it, because there's some cool things to do that you can do with that, and especially combined with some other technical things like Schnorr signatures and things of that nature. You can really get reduce the blockchain size just in general and do more interesting things. You may if they activate XOR at some point, you can do blockchain betting, and you have no idea what the conditions of the bet are and stuff like that. So, yeah, that would be really cool.
All right, so let's move on actually. And as we were doing the show, I got notified because something just happened. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that China has quietly ordered closing of a Bitcoin mining operation. And
Wow.
so we'll see. I mean, I'm kind of blocked. I'm too cheap to pay a Wall Street Journal subscription. There used to be a workaround. I don't know why my workaround isn't working.
Google search headline.
Yeah, no, I've done that.
No. The only way I found is that you have to find the author of the article on Twitter and click through that link, because that always works.
I just clicked on it and it worked. So.
No, I try. Anyway, I'm sure our users are slightly more resourceful when they're not on live air. So go ahead and check this out. I'm sure this has been reported on by other publications as well. Yeah, so let's see. Let's see where this goes. I don't really have much to comment on this. I mean, this was expected by us here, especially. I mean, I was expecting the China to, go after it a little bit. They want their piece of the pie too. I mean, this is kind of how governments work.
Here's the relevant passage. A multi-agency government task force overseeing risk in internet finance issued a notice last week ordering local authorities to guide the shutdown of operations that produce or mine cryptocurrencies, according to the notice and people familiar with the information. So this is different from what we talked about last week, where they said no more tax breaks and no more free electricity. This is really a shutdown. Huh. And but I don't know how they want a piece of the pie if they're shutting it down. I think it's more, it goes along this theme that China
you shut down the ones to eliminate some competition in order to rent seek from the other ones, right?
You sell licenses. That's what you essentially do. You say, okay, you're allowed to do it, you're not allowed to do it, something like that.
Okay, but we don't have. I mean, that's the speculation. We don't have evidence of that.
Yeah,
no, just historical.
So, so your take is they're gonna sell licenses and maybe milk the ones themselves. My take is, and I spoke to a few people recently who say that Russia and China are more backing gold, and they want gold to be the sound money in their backing of their financial system, whereas other countries are at least sympathetic to crypto, and this would confirm this news, because otherwise for China it would be easy to outright confiscate all the miners like they do with gold and just take the production from them. It would be very easy for the Chinese government to do that, but they just don't like Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. This is new. We got to see how this develops. I personally think mining is fairly decentralized. I don't think this is going to make all that much of a difference, and this will only help decentralization.
Actually, yeah, this is important, Jimmy. Why don't you talk a bit? Let's just assume all the miners in China shut down. We lose a lot of hash power. What's the most likely outcome?
I think the mining equipment gets sold to people in Canada. I keep hearing that Quebec is trying to become like the new center of mining, and there are several companies setting up there and stuff. So I think the mining equipment gets sold in a fire sale, probably goes from China to Canada or some other place. These are very valuable pieces of equipment. I'm sure people will be trying to utilize them, and there will be sharks swimming to pick that up. If the mining hash power goes down, it won't be down for very long, because the equipment's valuable, and just somebody's going to buy them. And at that point, it's there will be mining setups all over the world and it'll get more decentralized. I think ultimately it's good. Maybe we have slower transactions for a little bit. Maybe the fees go up a little bit, but I think we're okay.
And it obviously hurts like B-Trash way more than it hurts Bitcoin. You agree?
I don't know. I don't know who's mining it, so it's hard to say.
I mean, but it's that region that's pushing the shitcoin, right? So if that region loses its miners and they have to get sold, then that helps actual Bitcoin.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you think, like whether miners follow price or price follows miners. My gut feeling is that miners follow price, and as long as the ratio is more or less constant, miners will just mine on the more profitable one. It doesn't really matter. They don't really care. So, if there are miners in Quebec, for example, and Bitcoin Cash is much more profitable to mine, they'll go mine Bitcoin Cash. That's just how the market seems to be working. So, I don't know if it hurts them per se. Maybe they get a little less hash power, but it should be in proportion to Bitcoin.
All right. Well, this transitions us nicely to the next story. So go ahead, Bounty.
Just one more thing, and we have the difficulty adjustment, right? If the hash power decreases substantially, and the difficulty should also decrease, right?
That takes 2 weeks, and I don't know how quickly mining equipment can be moved around, but I imagine I don't see a global shutdown for 2 weeks. It's probably a little. I don't know. Maybe if the Chinese authorities just said, "Hey, we're gonna shut power to all of these mining farms," then maybe we would have super slow blocks for maybe like a week or two. But I can't imagine it lasting more than say a month.
Okay, now you can get to your Coinbase bashing, Tone. Sorry for holding you up.
No, that's fine. Go ahead, run us through the story, man. It's amazing how I keep saying how Coinbase continues to, impress me with their incompetence, and then they always find a way to impress me some more.
So, Jimmy, you pulled up that story. You know all the details.
Yeah, sure. So here's what happened. So Overstock is a Coinbase customer. So Coinbase has multiple businesses, one of which is merchant processing. So if you go on Overstock, you can pay for an item on Overstock using Bitcoin, and Coinbase is their payment processor. So they will put up a QR code on behalf of Overstock, and when you pay to that QR code, Coinbase will credit Overstock's account. So there's a QR code, and it's a Bitcoin address, but as you know, Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash have the same address format. So this guy figured out, okay, I can actually pay with Bitcoin Cash instead of Bitcoin. So he bought a $78 motion sensor light on Overstock, and instead of paying via Bitcoin, he paid with Bitcoin Cash. Surprisingly, that amount went through as if it were Bitcoin. So he paid like 18%, 16% of the actual price of the item.
Yeah, so like a nice 85% discount.
Yeah, so great for him. And then he was like, okay, well, like this is obviously broken. So I think he's a security specialist. So he went and said, okay, well, I need to cancel this because I don't actually want the motion sensor light. And so he canceled the order, and the automatic processing of the cancellation of the order is that they refund you money back to some address. So he entered a Bitcoin address, and he got Bitcoin back instead of Bitcoin Cash. So not only did he pay like 15% of the item, but he was able to get a refund. So he made a ton. He made money on this transaction of like $70, and he was speculating that the most expensive item on Overstock is like $100,000 diamond ring or something like that, and he could have done the same thing and made $80,000. So they fixed this, but this just sort of speaks to what is going on over at Coinbase with their hurried Bitcoin Cash implementation. Tone, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, it's just blatant incompetence of the CEO, right? Because he believes in Bitcoin Cash, or Bcash as I call it, like it should be, because of this confusion. And we were already dealing with all these problems of people accidentally sending their Bitcoin to a Bitcoin Cash address. And when you do it on Coinbase, it will literally take months to figure this out. That's why I was saying, if you really want to, make sure Coinbase understands the problem, send $5 worth of Bitcoin to a Bitcoin Cash address on Coinbase, then contact their customer service every single day and tell them, where the hell is my Bitcoin? Go get it for me, because I should not have had the ability to send my Bitcoin to a non-Bitcoin address. This is the stupidity of not changing address formats. And then one of the big power users of Bitcoin is just decides to integrate it in without even realizing that they have the same address format, right? It's like if Ethereum had the same address format as Bitcoin. I mean, what the hell do you do? It's just blatant competence. I mean, Coinbase continues to be one of the worst companies in the entire space, and it's just crazy. It's like I'm not surprised they screwed up. It's always the degree to how incompetent your screw ups are, especially in this case. So obviously Coinbase is liable. We'll see how long Coinbase is going to be in business. I mean, this is just bad.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is just, I don't understand how they don't have separate payments business and an exchange business. I know they integrated Bitcoin Cash into their exchange business like a few weeks ago. It was a big controversy. They even had a blog post yesterday about, how they integrated Bitcoin Cash and what they could have done differently and retrospective and all that. It was all very interesting if you guys want to read that. But this is crazy to me that their exchange business and their payments business are not properly separated from a technical perspective. The fact that you could pay with Bitcoin Cash to a Bitcoin address and their back end is so tangled that they can't distinguish which one is which. That tells me that there's some like behemoth of a back end that's not well modular, that's not very modular, that's not really well written, that's not unit tested really well. I mean, like, this is the sort of thing, if I were their CTO, I'd be like, okay, we need to do a complete audit, and we need to go and write tests for absolutely everything, because
who is their CTO? Because clearly the Litecoin guy wasn't cutting it, right? Like,
well, Charlie Lee left because I think he wanted to pursue more Litecoin stuff, but he wasn't CTO. He wasn't even VP of engineering, from what I remember. I think he was like director of engineering or something like that. But I mean, this is like from a technical perspective, I look at this and I go, okay, they do not have really they do not have a very good backend, because your payments and merchant processing should be a separate sort of thing than your exchange and custody part. But they seem like so intertwined that like somebody added BCH way down in the stack, and it like propagated to all parts of their business. The fact that they're on the same thing should give you some serious pause. Like, you need separation of concerns. If you're integrating Bitcoin Cash into the exchange part and it suddenly changes your payments part, that's not very good architecture. And from a technical perspective, I mean, like, this is very, very worrisome. If you're an investor in Coinbase, I would start getting pretty worried, because like, the fact that this happened tells you that something is seriously wrong with how they designed the whole thing, or like they need to blow up the back end and redo it, because like the fact that you didn't catch a bug this big tells me that they're either not testing well enough, or they don't have the ability to do so.
I mean, like, you're talking about it from a technical perspective. I mean, from a fundamental perspective, it tells me I don't think the upper people at Coinbase understand what Bitcoin is. I mean, that's the scary part. I'm not even sure Brian Armstrong understands that this is a problem. Like, he's probably like, oh, what's the big deal? Yeah, it's the same address. You can just pay with Bitcoin Cash. It's the same as Bitcoin.
I doubt that's the case. I'm sure he knows that there's a difference. The thing is, when you have a bug like this, it's almost always because there's some shared stack item for both businesses that's sort of servicing.
No, Jimmy. It depends on how delusional Brian Armstrong is. I mean, he might actually think that Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin, and to him, this is not a problem.
I doubt
until he loses all the money and gets fired.
I highly doubt that. Brian's a fairly intelligent man.
I've never disagreed with you more on this show, like, ever.
Okay, Jimmy and Tone are disagreeing on the intelligence of Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase. I guess the jury will stay out on this one for a little bit. However, you've got some interesting data on the mempool, Jimmy, right?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on the. We'll keep an eye if more people are starting to use SegWit addresses, but it'll be a slow crawl until a major company. Man, I don't even know if I want Coinbase to integrate SegWit. They're gonna screw it up so bad, it's gonna end up looking bad on SegWit
Hey,
itself.
Tone. I don't know. Did you change something with the mic? Because it suddenly got really bad.
Oh,
Uh, I
no.
don't. Okay, that's weird.
Is
Yeah.
it? How's my mic, guys? Is everyone complaining?
No, I'm like it's just what I'm
Oh,
hearing.
okay. Maybe my mic went bust. How is this? Bad?
No, it's still. I don't know. Valentine, are you hearing a bad sound from Tone or no?
I have you okay, and I have Tone broken up. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know what's going on with Tone. So I'll talk
All right,
about the seg.
how about now? I just
Uh,
unplugged it and plugged it
yeah,
back.
yeah, that's a lot better. Yeah, that's a lot
Okay.
better. Yeah.
I don't know. Something must have went glitchy. I'm not even sure I want Coinbase integrating SegWit. They're gonna screw it up so bad. It's gonna look bad on like the entire ecosystem at this point.
Yeah. Might be fair statement. All right, so mempool, yeah, it hasn't changed really since yesterday. You're still probably going to need to do like, 200 and above satoshis per byte if you want to get in the transaction today. You could gamble and put something in the 100 to 140 range, and maybe it starts getting eaten into later today. Really depends on how many transactions go through today. But yeah, it is a weekday. It tends to be there tend to be more transactions. So yeah, if you really need to get it in, I would say 140 to 200, 200 to 300. That's where I would probably put it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about right. I mean, again, going by my metric, I would go with about 130, 130, 140 should get you in. The mempool is coming down a little bit. So hey, well, as the price of Bitcoin goes down, people tend to spend less Bitcoin. What a surprise! And boom, we might actually clear up the mempool. All right. People are being anxious about the price. We're good. We're gonna head this way. All right. Let's take a look. We're very close to actually starting to call this a bear market. I'm gonna actually. Oh man, I may not be able to do a video today because I got a bunch of meetings. But tomorrow I'll try and do my video because then I'll be on airplanes for the next 24 hours. And those of you that are observant will see that there are new numbers in the code, and these are the new upgrades that I will be adding into the code. So I'm not going to talk about them here. I'll talk about them on my video. But we're still kind of sort of in this bullish ascending triangle. So there's still a chance that good things will happen by end of week and we get back into this point. But right now things are starting to look a little bit ugly. The week is now flipping and we might be turning into a bear here. The daily has now on its last legs holding up right above the 50-day moving average. It's coming once again to the tip of the adjusted triangle, and you know, a few more closes below 14,000, and things are going to get a little bit bad. And this is again, I wanted to the original drop that was here. I really wanted to see this drop end on a 9, and it didn't. Gave us this clean bullish entry, right? And then we never got any momentum, any real momentum going to the upside. I mean, this looked like real momentum. The breakout of the triangle was fairly obvious. Everything looked like it was going to go back to 24, 25,000, but we got derailed. There was plenty of time to get out of this trade break even. And now, I mean, it's either in a no trade zone or we're starting to go bearish here. According to this indicator specifically, technically speaking, there is a bearish trade on the table right now. As of today, a candle with a red 3 started trading below a candle with a red 2. This is the same instance as this right here when we had a red 2 trading below a red 1, giving you a bearish entry into a trade and the price fell from about 16,300 and down to like the 11,000 zone. But of course, when markets bottom, it's hard to time the actual bottom. So On the upside, once again, there was bullish entries here that would have taken you out break even or so. And now there's still a bunch of support in this region, but this support is getting weaker by the day, even by the hour. So if I was to trade Bitcoin right now, I would be looking at short trades, not long trades. Taking a look at the 4-hour, what do we got here? So on this last video, I mentioned, I'm not sure why this is green, but I mentioned, hey, this might be a time, if you were in these bullish trades, this might be a time to get out of those bullish trades with a break even. If you went long off of the 9 arrow, this was your chance. And I specifically talked about the 1-hour chart because the 1-hour chart was hitting this 9. And I talked about a 1 to 4 candle correction and then down into a 13 count. Now, there's lots of things that took place here that I don't know why I forgot to mention it, but I'm pretty sure I would have mentioned the def cross, but I may not have gone into the details of the def cross. And I talk about this during my seminar, actually. The way I love seeing the dev crosses is when the price actually bounces into the cross. This is an awesome time to short the asset whenever you bounce into the cross. And lots of things when out here, I was just too busy yesterday to tweet anything, but you had this 9, you had this 1 to 4 candle correction, which was perfect, right into the cross of the def cross, and now down we go, which is so let's see if there's a way for us to bottom out. We're holding above the support line. There was a couple of, again, I'm not going to talk about what this is. This is like I said, code is always improving. There's a lot of people that like to mimic it, so I got to keep evolving. And so this was almost a 9 here for a little relief. It wasn't. And this continues to be a downtrend. I mean, once this double bottom was broken, I mean, things were just starting to get ugly. Back to the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour chart is once again about to come into a 9, though we will need the next candle to close about the same as this candle or lower. So let's see, right? Like this 9 has now kicked off a 13 count. So I remain pretty bearish on the 4-hour and the 1-hour. We'll probably go down into the 12 or 13 zone. It's hard for me to give price targets right now because the daily is just starting to give you bearish indications. So daily is going bearish. Weekly is still neutral. The 4-hour is about to give you a take profit 9, and the 1-hour is in the middle of nowhere, but it's staying at the lows. So get ready for another leg down. That's all I can really say. But everything is going down. Like even Ripple continues to go down, right? Again, I still happen to have the chart opened. And
Bcash is up 15% today in Bitcoin terms.
Well, again, right? Btrash is probably the most negatively correlated crypto to Bitcoin, right? Because what's bad for Bitcoin, people for some reason think that it's good for Bcash, but in reality, it's just hype. I think they bought another. I think they like bought another domain. Like they continue to just buy up the media and the Twitter handles, and they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose all that money. I'm not scared about Btrash. But people have to realize that like all these altcoins, they're all like this. It's just a creator that wants to create something and scam everybody and just get out and sell it and make money, right? This is an example of Tron, where it's another scam coin that everyone pumps it up. You see, you think that you're doing well by making, 10, 20,000 on a scam coin, where the guy that created that scam coin is making millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. In this case, $300 million that the scammer got just by you being happy with your $5,000. Participate in these things, but other people do. And someone sent me one of my one of my consulting clients sent me this late last night. he's like, oh man, I wish I was trading the Tron shitcoin with your indicator. That's basically what he sent me. There was a 913 on the daily on the same day with this monster doji candle. So hopefully this shitcoin will go to zero where it should have been instead of making it to the top 5 of coin market cap. Again, I'm not sure coin market cap is doing anybody any favors. Oh, we got a new top 5. We got Cardano creeping. I can't wait to see Cardano like above Ethereum and stuff. I mean, all of this is just nonsense. But hey, that's what we're dealing with until the bubble pops.
Okay,
right, I'm gonna go to camera here. Say hi to people. Screen share the whole time.
So unfortunately, some bad news from Tone on the price. But guys, how long has this bear market been happening for? What, 3 weeks? Almost 4 weeks?
Well, and the thing is, like, the bear market hasn't even officially started. I mean, because we went up so much. I mean, we went from $1,000 to $20,000, right? So, what is your definition of a bear market versus a short-term pullback? I mean, we fell from 20,000 down to 11 in a span of like a week. Then we bounced all the way back to 17, 18,000. I mean, a bear market, it takes a little longer than that to identify.
So correction bear market anyway, it's been 2 to 3 weeks. I know Bitcoin lovers are spoiled by doubling and tripling in prices all the time, but sometimes you just have to take a step back and relax. Jimmy, last words?
Yeah, like, hold for the long term, right? Like, and that's really my message every day is think long term, not short term, and whatever's going on today. So anyway, thanks everybody, and this song is done.
Switch it off, Tom?
Yep, now it's off.
Got it. Okay.
Almost at the end.